Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's edition of Advanced Bass Fishing, and much appreciated you guys joining me for today's video. We're going to be talking about how to catch bass in clear water today, and it's not as simple or as obvious as what you think. I've had a lot of experience fishing clear water because I grew up here and I live in the Missouri Ozarks on the White River, and we have a lot of clear water lakes down here. You know, Bull Shoals Lake, Beaver Lake, Table Rock Lake. All our lakes around here, we got, visibility up to 15 feet in some of these lakes. So I've had decades and decades of experience in catching them in clear water. So I sort of want to give you guys some tips and advice on how the bass react, the best techniques, the best lures, and things that determine, what those techniques and lures are going to be. So we'll get into that in today's video. Also, guys, just a quick invitation. Like everybody, if you guys are interested in getting stocked up on your fishing tackle for this spring, please swing by my link in the description, my tackle warehouse link. If you guys are using that link to purchase your fishing tackle for this spring, it's a great way to support intuitive angling, get you guys some good deal on tackle. So really appreciate everybody that's been doing that. And also I'd like to invite you to hit that subscribe button if you haven't there. So thanks for putting up with the plugs there. Okay, bass in clear water, it's not as obvious as what it seems. A lot of people think, bass, they're in clear water, they can see a lot better, and you've got to use natural, realistic lures to catch those fish. Now, there are some truths to that, but there's also a lot more that goes with it. One of the things that I'll tell you right off the bat about clear water bass fishing is there's two factors that really determine the technique and the lure that you want to use, and that's the light level, where it's sunny, partly cloudy, rainy, whatever it may be, in correlation with the water temperature. Those two things are huge, along with how clear actually is. Now, for the sake of this video, we're going to be talking about clear water being anything that has over 4 foot of visibility. So if you got over 4 foot of visibility, a lot of this stuff I'm talking about today is going to work. Now, a lot of lakes, a lot of lakes have water that clear. Now, a lot of lakes don't have water that's like over 8 foot visibility, but clear water, for the purpose of the techniques, we're going to use that 4 foot, ceiling as far as the minimum on it. Okay, now, the thing about clear water and understanding the impact that light levels and the water clarity has and the water temperature on that, it has to do with a lot of seasonal variations. One of the things that you're going to find out about clear water bass fishing is that you can catch bass on a ton of different type of lures if the conditions change or if the conditions are right. So what I sort of want to go through to sort of give you guys a good foundational, piece of advice on this without making this video hours long is I want to go through every season of the year, and I want to talk about some of the top techniques at different times of the year with different water temperatures. So I think that's probably the best way to approach this. Okay, let's talk about wintertime fishing. Now, when you're dealing with wintertime fishing, you're dealing with fish that are both suspended and on the bottom, using a lot of different water depths. And you're also dealing with, fish that are not going to chase as much. They do chase, but they don't chase quite as much. So in that terms, normally in the winter time of the year in clear water, your baits that move a little bit slower, that are a little bit smaller, seem to work really good. Now, some of my top lures for wintertime fishing is a jerkbait and an Alabama rig. Now, those are type of lures when the bass are in a little bit more of a chasing mood, and you can speed them up or slow them down. That's the thing about baits like that, is you can sort of match the personality of the water temperature, because in the wintertime, you may have water temperatures between 40 to 50 degrees. So and that 10-degree variable has a lot to do with the technique. So, if you have 40-degree water, a jerkbait is probably going to be better. If you got 50-degree water, a rig may be a little bit better with that. So those type of lures are really good in the winter time of year. And the other lure categories that work good are the ones that you can fish finesse on the bottom or for suspended fish. So things like Ned rigs, little finesse jigs, spoons, ice jigs, little small swim baits, mainly just keeping it small and keeping it natural. Even with the jerk baits and the Alabama rigs, I use finesse type jerk baits, and on my Alabama rigs in the wintertime, I use little bitty tiny swim baits, like 2-inch long swim baits. So that's going to be one, thing that you really want to remember in the wintertime. And also with the wintertime, you're going to find out that that's one of the few times of the year that the light intensity does not play as big of a factor. It plays a little bit of a factor, again, on the exact water temperature, but if there's any time of the year where the bass don't react quite as much to sunny days, partly cloudy days, or cloudy days, it's the winter time of the year when that water temperature is under 50 degrees. Now, as you get into that springtime where the water temperature starts to get over 50 degrees, you got 3 different seasons within each spring. You've got the pre-spawn, which is when the water temperature is usually in the 50s. You've got the actual spawn time, when usually the water temperature is in the low 60s. And then you've got the post-spawn, that's usually characterized when that water temperature gets in the upper 60s or into the 70s. And so this can be over like a 3-month period. One of the things you're going to find about in Clearwater situations in the springtime of the year is that bass do not like to chase in the springtime. When they start to get focused on the actual spawn, they're not going to chase much. Now, they'll chase a little bit in the pre-spawn and a little bit in the post-spawn. So let's talk about the pre, post, and current spawn. In the pre-spawn time of the year, Clearwater situation, one of my favorite lures is the crawdad crankbait. Crawdad crankbait is a natural looking color, works really good in Clearwater. You're going to notice that you get more bites on a crawdad crankbait in Clearwater in the pre-spawn if you do have those low light days. So I throw a crawdad crankbait like a wiggle wart or something, a rock crawler, in the pre-spawn. If I have a cloudy day with a little bit of wind, that will activate those bass to chase a little bit. Also, if you have a real dark day, like a rainy type day, slow rolling the big spinnerbait can be very effective. Really good way to catch them during that time of the year. But that crawdad crankbait and slow rolling the spinnerbait is going to be really good. And then also you can't go wrong with a jig in the pre-spawn. Just casting some type of a pitching and flipping jig around rocky banks is really good in that Clearwater environment. Those are my 3 go-to things: crawdad crankbait, jig, slow rolling the spinnerbait. Now, as the water temperature starts to get closer to 60 in the Clearwater, fish shut down from chasing, and you're going to have to fish on the bottom. So in Clearwater, that time of year, my number 1 bait is wacky rig. Some type of a wacky rig worm, stick bait, something like that. A shaky head is really, really good when the fish are spawning. Something that falls really slow and is really natural and is on the bottom. That's just the mood and the personality of the fish. That's the main thing I do, guys, is when that water temperature is close to 60, I'm going to have that wacky rig on. I'm going to have a shaky head on, something I can fish on the bottom. Now, as those fish get done spawning a little bit, it's going to open up a little bit more variables, and the light intensity also has a real good part to play. But after the fish get done spawning, that's when you start to get in a little bit of a diversity where you can catch fish on both slow baits and moving baits. During the post-spawn, which is usually, late April into early June, one of my favorite ways to catch them in Clearwater is a topwater lure. A walking topwater like a Xeraspook or a Megabass Diamante, some type of a walking topwater is a great way to catch them in Clearwater. This is also a good time of year if you have, now these are for low light conditions, topwater for low light, and the swim bait and a glide bait. A big swim bait like a Megabass Mag Draft, like I got there on the wall right there. Great lure in Clearwater if you have low light conditions. The same with a glide bait. If you're going to catch them on a big swim bait and a glide bait in Clearwater, it's usually going to be in May. And like I said, best days are the low light days, cloudy days, rainy days. That type of stuff's going to be really good. Now also in that Clearwater on different type of days, a little bit brighter days, a Carolina rig and a football head jig and a shaky head can still work good. Those fish that have been spawning, they're starting to pull out. They usually pull out to those secondary points, and dragging, stuff like that on the bottom can be really good. Summertime is a little bit tougher time to fish in Clearwater because once that thermocline starts establishing, usually like in July or August, you start to have fish really dispersed throughout the whole water column. Some fish will be shallow, some fish will be mid-depth, some fish will be suspended. Now, sunlight condition and time of day in Clearwater in the summertime has a big impact on it. If you get out there early in the morning, late in the evening, or at night, night's the best time to fish in the summertime. you can catch fish in clear water on those moving baits, especially like a topwater, maybe like a spinner bait, something like that. But everybody knows to get out there early morning topwater fishing. That's a good way to catch them. Although I've never had any consistent success doing that. You may have a real small window that works, but for me in clear water in the summertime, my favorite technique is fishing deeper. And, I'll mix it up between suspended bass or fishing on the bottom, casting like a big worm, like a big 10-inch worm. The football head jig still works good. I catch a lot of fish like on that mega bass, sleeper crawl and the dark sleeper. Just fishing deeper, fishing, flatter points on the main lake, and 15 to 25 foot of water is going to be really good. Also, if you have a lot of spotted bass in a lake in clear water, those fish will suspend in the summertime too, and you can get out there and you can graph them. Get out on those deeper points. You can fish a drop shot vertical on them, even a spoon sometimes. Also look for schooling fish in clear water. Schooling fish are a big player in the summertime on a clear water lake. So look for those schooling fish on the calm days or the cloudy days. Now, second to spring, my favorite time to fish a clear water lake is in the fall time of the year. Fall time is a great time to fish any type of a moving bait in the fall. And again, it's very weather dependent. In the fall time of the year, you're going to have a tough time unless you got some wind and some clouds. If you don't have wind and clouds, top water can still be good fishing shallow and clear water. Like September, October, early November, I'll take like a whopper plopper or again a walking top water, and I'll get shallow and fish that bait in real clear, real shallow water, targeting those fish that are like feeding on spawning bluegills in that clear water. But I really look in the fall time of the year to catch them on a topwater and a spinner bait in low light conditions, early or late in the morning. This is one time of the year that you can have success for a long time under low light conditions, whether it be, from just being early or late in the day or on cloudy, rainy days. Wind is also a big factor with that clear water in the fall time of the year. Probably my favorite way to catch them on clear water in the fall time is burning a spinner bait. And in order to catch them on a burning spinner bait, you have to have a cloudy day and you got to have some wind. So that's a really good way to catch them. I don't fish slow baits in the fall time of the year very much in clear water. I will a little bit, but for the most part, I'm going to be fishing a topwater and a spinner bait. Once you get into late fall, like November and maybe December, the crawdad crankbait can come back into play a little bit. But for me, it's like whopper plopper, Xeraspook, walking topwater, something along those lines, and a small finesse spinner bait like that Megabass SD3 can be pretty good. So that's just sort of my game plan. That's the way I approach, clear water situations. It works pretty good for me. So hope it helps you guys out. We'll talk later.